What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Political Insider. I'm Brett Smith, your humble host. Joining me today is a good friend. He's a contributor over at Human Events and frequently seen on Kennedy on FBN and Gutfeld on FNC. Chris Barron, it's been a while, but welcome back, dude.
Hey, glad to come back anytime, man.
Great to have you. Okay, so this ongoing scavenger hunt for the Biden classified documents presses on. Now the Justice Department has seized an additional 12 classified docs from Joe Biden's Delaware home last Friday when he was VP and when he was a U.S. Senator. Something reminded me of what Rush said before he died. He said that at some point in time, there could be the case where Democrats and the mainstream media turn on Biden and decide to dump him for someone else in 2024. Do you think that's what's happening right now with all of these recent discoveries of Biden having classified docs laying around in his garage in his home? And just there seems to be sort of a Democrat dogpile going on right now.
I mean, I feel like that's what people on our side want to believe.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Look, I'll admit that the left has been more interested in the Biden document scandal than I would have thought they would have been. Yeah. But in a way, they almost had no choice. This is the greatest unforced error of unforced errors. All Biden had to do when it came to the Trump classified document scandal is say nothing, say absolutely nothing whatsoever. The decision to raid Mar-a-Lago was the dumbest decision of all time. All of this was setting up for every president, vice president, they all end up with documents. It happened they all end up with documents that they shouldn't have because of just a massive amount of documents. So you've got Biden out there on TV saying this is, how does this happen? How can you be this careless? Meanwhile, there's him and Jay Leno and the Corvette and boxes with documents sticking out of them. It's like a nightmare that never had to happen if Biden would have simply shown a little bit of restraint. But this is the left's problem in general when it comes to Trump. They aren't happy to simply kind of let things play the string out and kind of let it be. Let's let the facts dictate where this goes. They think everything is their opportunity to finally kill Trump.
Right.
So they take everything to its illogical end. And they bet the house on everything on this. This is it. And every time it collapses, which reduces their credibility, makes people more and more just whatever, who cares? It's just another BS thing from the left. And meanwhile, this one set a trap for their own president. And as much as people have said, this is the Democratic pileup on Biden, I really haven't seen a huge Democratic pileup on Biden. I haven't, has there been anybody who has said that the president needs to make a more forthcoming explanation? Any Democratic leader, has Pelosi or Schumer said that Biden or Hakeem Jeffries, have they said, this is unacceptable, that Biden needs to do significantly more, that this is absolutely wrong? And, no, every time it's this is different than the Trump situation. And I feel like much of the angst that Democrats and journalists has actually been the poor press handling by the Biden administration. The current press secretary has done such a terrible job. And I don't know if it's because she's incompetent or because she's, being given bad information or answers to incompetent people or some toxic cocktail of incompetence all around. But I have felt I don't think that they've gone for the jugular. I haven't. I mean, if Gavin Newsom comes out tomorrow and says Biden is no longer fit to run for re-election and he shouldn't, call me then. Then I'll say, okay, they're coming for Biden.
They're talking Joe Manchin in 2024 now.
Joe Manchin in 20. Is there anybody less popular in the Democratic Party than Joe Manchin? I mean, you could probably get more votes in a Democratic primary than Joe Manchin. I guess from Joe Manchin, I'm talking about anything but running for re-election in West Virginia because he's dead man walking at this point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Jim Justice is going to run. Jim Justice is going to wipe the floor with him if he chooses to run for re-election. I mean, it's over. My guess is that Joe Manchin is going to hang out on his yacht in DC. He lives on a yacht there at the harbor. He's going to hang out with his pharmaceutical lobbyist daughter. He's going to live a good life, and he's probably never going to go back to West Virginia.
Well, it doesn't sound half bad, to be honest with you.
It
So
really doesn't. Like, I don't know why these people, like, I would cash out too, man. I'd
I
be
know
done.
they all want to go back,
Yeah.
when they can make more money in the private sector, frankly. But I think the allure of power is
It's
more powerful than the allure of money.
it's like I saw Boehner like maybe 6 months after Boehner had left Congress, and he was walking from a Union Station. I was walking to Union Station. He's smoking a cigarette, and I went up to him. I sighed, speaker, it's so great to see you. He's got a huge smile on his face. He's having the best time ever. It's like Boehner wanted to drink Merlot and smoke cigarettes. Like
Yeah,
he was done. You know what I mean?
carefree
I don't
lifestyle.
blame him. I'm like, whatever, man. That sounds really good to me.
Yeah, these guys that understand that there's a deck chair waiting for them, after they get out of there, I seem to be the happiest. Hey, do you think that Merrick Garland or Special Counsel Robert Hur are going to reveal anything in this investigation? Do you think there's going to be any real consequences for Joe Biden?
No, no. And I mean, so I don't know if you watched American Crime Stories Impeachment, which was
Oh,
the
I watched I did. That was the made-for-TV movie about
series.
The
Yeah.
series about the Lewinsky scandal. That is excellent. Clive Owen blew my mind. I didn't even know it was him for the first couple episodes. Clive Owen does an amazing Bill Clinton that everybody must see.
And how
Incredible.
and like all like by and by the way, Sarah Paulson's Linda Tripp is like I literally don't know that it's not Linda Tripp. And I mean I know Linda Tripp's dead, so it can't
Right.
be, you know what? It's like it's so good. So
Well,
Sean
and
and I decided, like,
her kids said very favorable things about the series, the Linda Tripp's kids, which I think was a great endorsement.
and by the way,
So,
I have to I can't the guy who did it is a liberal.
mhm.
But it was an incredibly fair take. Like
Yeah,
Bill Clinton did not come out of that looking good. And frankly, none of the Clinton people came out of that looking good. And it's not that Linda Tripp didn't come out looking like awesome, and neither did Monica. I felt like it was everybody kind of looked like real, but I was real. So we started rewatching it again because we
mhm.
loved it so much. Sean was like, we should watch it again. I was like, all right, let's do it.
It's a good
And I
idea.
was realizing that like all of us remember like the
Yeah,
independent counsel and like how that was like, wow, you get one of those and you are screwed. Like you get, they'll never stop until they kill you. That was
10
the
star, right?
right. But so the special counsel law is different than the independent counsel law we had under Clinton.
Hmm.
So we're not going to have her isn't going to end up investigating Hunter Biden. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
this is not. They quickly realized this is not tenable. We can't have something that begins as an investigation into Whitewater end up
right.
as an affair with Monica Lewinsky. Like they understood we've got to put some guardrails on this thing because otherwise it's an effing free for all.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people when they heard, oh, like there's a special counsel appointed, I don't have much faith in this. We were talking off camera. A client colleague of mine, John Mills, retired colonel, spent a lot of time in the intelligence community, wrote a
Mhm.
book called The Nation Will Follow. I was talking to him about the issue this morning, and essentially, like he makes a case like the deep state has been involved in this from the very beginning. The disparate treatment of President Trump and President Biden. And at the end of the day, can we really trust whatever the final product of either of these investigations are? Do we trust that our DOJ, our FBI, our intelligence communities, do we trust that they actually are like Chinese walled up from politics and are really focused on the facts? No. Like they are doing outcome driven investigations.
Right. What incentive do they have to actually be interested in this and getting to the bottom of it? Probably not much, because it's not going to make them look good from that standpoint.
Yeah, and also like look, Trump has been like the threat to them from the very beginning. It's why they tried to go after him in 2016. It's why they continue to go after him the entire time during his presidency. It's why they've gone after him since his presidency. Is they know that Trump is a guy they can't control. Like they know this is a guy who could do anything he want. Like he could come in and clean house. Now look, he didn't during his administration, a mistake. But they know that he is the guy who is completely and totally independent and who they can't control. That's the guy they want to keep as far away from the White House as humanly possible. And one of the reasons why I discount this like Democrats are after Biden thing is I think at this point, I don't think there's any way to talk Biden into not running for reelection. And if Biden runs, he's the worst possible candidate they could have. The only thing worse for that would be if Biden ran in a contested primary and lost, because then you end up with really angry voters.
Divided voters. Yeah.
Yes.
Divided base. Yeah.
Yes. That's a nightmare for Democrats. So the cake was baked once Democrats overperformed in the midterms that Biden is going to be their nominee in 2024, even though they don't want him to be.
Yeah.
And so they actually can't, like, there's no incentive for the deep state at this point to be attempting to undermine Biden, because it only helps Trump. And look, I am entirely positive that they're going to try to indict Trump over the documents. No question, because that's where this thing's been going the very beginning.
Why not? Why not do it at this point? They've come this far.
You impeached the president after he was out of office. You used a tool that is aimed towards dealing with somebody while they're in office when they were out of office, because what you wanted to do was bar him from running for president ever again. And that's what this is about. Like, at the end of, never believe any Democrat who tells you that they want to run against Donald Trump in 2024. That is a frigging lie. And don't believe any Republican who tells you Democrats are salivating to run against Trump. If they were salivating to run against Trump, they wouldn't be spending this unbelievable amount of effort and energy to attempt to bar Trump from running for president. They would be egging him on. They'd be begging for Trump to run for president. They do not want Trump to run.
No, it's like you were saying, they're constantly looking for that proverbial kill shot to finally get rid of him. And that's not a coincidence. He's a threat. And after 2016, the deep state was like, we're never going to allow that to ever happen again.
Correct. And that is why, again, all these people who are, and we're hearing on the right. Look, I love DeSantis. I think he's done a great job. I think he'd be a great president one day. But the DeSantis supporters who are saying that Democrats are licking their chops waiting to run against Trump are lying to you, because that's not true. They're going to say DeSantis is just as evil as Trump. They're going to make him out to be just as much of the bad guy. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I still believe Democrats are more worried about Trump because he did win. He's already shown he can win. He has won. He built that electoral coalition that flipped blue wall states in 2016. He's already proven he can do it. That is why it makes them so nervous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, do you think that Trump's going to return to Twitter or Facebook?
Yes, absolutely. It's like catnip. He can't. And by the way, he should.
He should.
Look, I understand that he made the deal, the Truth Social deal. And look, I bought stock. Like, I probably shouldn't have. Because I thought they'd never let him back on Twitter. Who could have known that Elon Musk would be the savior of Twitter?
Wild card, just another wild card.
I know, right? But it's like he should come back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this. You can't win unless you're in the arena.
That's right.
And the arena is Twitter and Facebook. We might not like it. We might think, I wish there were other, but that is the arena. It's why all of these people who have said on the left, like, I'm quitting and going to Mastodon, like, they're all still there. You know, they can't leave because it is the arena. And so Trump should be back in it. And by the way, when he comes back, I hope we get more of the happy warrior Trump and less of the grievance Trump. You know,
I don't want victim Trump anymore. I don't want to hear about 2020. I want offense. I want him to be like Patton and just drive like Third Army, you know, full speed ahead.
Like he truthed out that meme that was Biden giving the State of the Union and Schumer in the background, and instead of Pelosi on the other side, it was Trump, and he was like this, and it was like sunglasses on, and I'm like, that is the Trump I want, you know? Like,
the heel. I mean, he's he's the man when he's you know, those tweets kind of wink at you in a lot of ways, and I really miss that, and I just kind of think that you know, Twitter's the largest town square or town hall that we have, and his absence there is really hurting him because Biden is there, Trump's not there, and perception is reality, and it feels kind of like he's hiding out sort of on Truth Social, and I just feel like he really needs to come back. So I'm hoping that They asked for the Facebook page to be reinstated. I think once they get the go ahead on that, or maybe gets that freed up, then maybe they'll plan some kind of big announcement that he's returning to both at the same time.
Well, and I mean, it's like you think about like the most classic like Trump lines. They're always the like funny, like
Even Elon has said many times that Trump is really good at Twitter.
oh,
I mean, really good.
but even like think about the debates. Like 2020 Trump debates were bad because I almost felt like Trump was like, I don't know, like almost too mean and not funny.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Whereas like against Hillary, you know, like because you'd be in jail. You know, I mean,
Those zingers, man. He had so many zingers that just
yes,
cracked everybody up. Yeah.
and he looked like he was having fun.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the weight of being president at the time and dealing with everything he was dealing with, and he was kind of in the bunk. I don't think he was having fun in the same way that he was in 2016. Mm-hmm. So I hope, having been out for these couple of years and kind of taking a break from Twitter, not that he wanted to, but they wanted him to. Yeah. Like, I hope he comes back, and I hope we get more of the fun, irreverent Trump, who it's clear this guy, everybody was always like, Trump needs to start acting more presidential. No, like I'm like, no, he doesn't. Like, no. I want Trump to be less presidential. I want him to be, I want him to be, what's his name in Caddyshack?
Al Chervik, exactly.
Yes, like that. You know what I mean? That's who we all voted for. That's who we all wanted. You know? Like,
there's that great article from The Atlantic, which was in 2015, which called the 2016 election the Caddyshack election. And this is way before he won the primaries. And I remember sharing this with people. I sent it to you and sent it to Lisa and a couple other people. And I just said, this is so spot on, because Caddyshack was the tag for Caddyshack was the slobs versus the snobs. And you had Bushwood Country Club, the Republican Party, and this guy who came in who wasn't a member, but he was friends of some members and was therefore able to go and golf there. And he said, he was so he thought it was such a stuck-up snobatorium that he said, maybe I'll buy it,
buy Bushwood.
Yeah.
But that was exactly what it was, and that was like that's the Trump I want to come back. Like that's the guy who, like, you guys hate me, but I'm so rich you have to deal with me.
Well, that was one of the key points in the article, was that Rodney Dangerfield's character was relatable because all of us want to be Rodney Dangerfield. We all want to be Al Chervik, in that sense that we make so much money in the private sector that we have FU money and we can just go around and say anything and do anything we want, which is Trump. And I also think about, the scene on the golf course where, he starts blaring Journey, any way you want it. That was sort of the Trump presidency. It was this party.
And so the one thing that I hope that Trump learned from his presidency is and I know everybody talks about it, but the staffing thing, and I mean, it started with,
we've talked about this so many times, and everyone else does too, because it's probably the biggest problem. Would you say?
It started with picking Pence as his running mate. Like from that he should have said no. He should have picked whoever he wanted. It didn't matter who his running mate was. I mean, he could have picked the corpse of Rodney Dangerfield as his running mate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but he listened to the establishment folks who told him that he needed a congressional whisperer. He needed somebody with DC experience. When the truth is, that's the exact opposite of what he needed. What he needed was another outsider. And so when his first chief of staff, Reince Priebus, again, why didn't it work? They told him he needed to have somebody who knew how DC worked. No, they needed to bring in somebody who was, the wrecking ball, because that's what Trump got elected to do, was be the wrecking ball.
Shake it up. Yeah.
So they needed to bring in a wrecking ball chief of staff. And it was like, he listened too much to the establishment voices who all hated him, who, by the way, have all now reared their ugly heads again in the pile on Trump after the election. Like, it's amazing to see how many of these people who pretended to be Trump supporters during this 4 years have now shown their true colors in the last couple of months and have been so aggressively anti-Trump. And it's not just like they're pro their guy. It's they're so aggressively anti-Trump that I'm like, I mean, I'm looking forward to your next reinvention when Trump is the nominee again, and you're all kissing his ass again.
Looking for a job.
Yep.
Because they will be.
Right.
Ah, man, it's crazy. I'm looking forward to the primaries because I'm
Oh, me
sure we'll
too.
have a primary. I don't think it's going to look like 2016, but I think we'll have. I think it'll be interesting. Who do you like for VP? I mean, I know we're way out, but is there anybody? I mean, if he could pick anybody, like you said, if it, and not listening to any DC insiders, no swamp creatures, advice allowed. Does he pick Carrie Lake?
I love Carrie Lake. I absolutely love Carrie Lake. I think she'd be phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
Does it hurt her that she lost?
Yeah, of course it does.
Yeah.
It definitely hurts her.
Mm-hmm.
I I heard this name floated this past weekend. It's the first time I've heard it floated, and of course, because she's a friend, I got super jazzed, and that's Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Look,
is it too soon for Sarah? I mean, Sarah's just recently got elected to governor of Arkansas, and
maybe, but I think Trump's considerations can't be those. You know what I mean? I can't. Right. Look, I think Trump is going to pick a woman to be his.
So do I.
Running mate. I don't want it to be Kristi Noem. It's not going to be Nikki Haley because she's clearly a treasonous bitch who will now again we're seeing her true colors. I don't want it to be Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah, I love Tulsi. She's very good for her role. That's not to be one heartbeat away from the president of the United States.
Yeah.
I love Carrie Lake because I think she's awesome. I mean, I literally, like a couple days after the election, I said to Sean, I would trade control of both chambers just for Carrie Lake winning the governorship of Arizona. And I have nothing to do with Arizona because I think she's that amazing. I hope she runs for Senate and I hope she wins and it'll be awesome.
She's such an incredible communicator. And her background.
The number of times I've watched videos of her when she gets asked questions by the press, like
she schools them. Yeah.
She dismantles them. And she does it, given her background in the media, she has a way to do it that is, it's like watching like a surgeon operate or something. You know what I mean? It's so precise. And it's like, she knows Trump like relies so much on instinct, like where he just goes for it. I feel like with Carrie Lake, it is much more methodical.
Like Trump is like carpet bombing, napalm. Carrie Lake is like the laser guided bomb.
Absolutely.
That goes into like the ventilation shaft and then down into the bunker. It's incredible.
It's so brutal. Like I saw this. She was going to an event and this reporter from CNN was like yelling at her, wanting to talk to her. She's like, will you give us an interview? And she was like, yeah, under one condition. Like, I want it to be on CNN Plus. Oh, wait, is that not on anymore?
That was brutal.
And it's like, she's completely deadpan. You know what I mean? It's not like, it's like dagger.
She humiliated. She humiliated that reporter. I mean, what do you say to that? Nothing.
It's like, but so like, I guess, and again, maybe it's too soon, but just hearing like Sarah, and again, Sarah's a friend, and I interviewed twice to be her chief deputy.
Be incredible.
And I love her, and she's amazing. And not that you can control Trump, but Sarah understands how Trump works. And I think that she, in her time at the White House, maximized the good Trump and minimized some of the bad Trump. And I think that she's very good at rolling with the punches. And like, she's got this demeanor about her that is like this calming thing. Like when she was in the press room, Sean Spicer was like kind of all over the place and it felt very helter skelter.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Sarah came, it was just this absolute calm. It was like you could say anything to her and she was unflappable. You could not get a rise out of Sarah. And I said to her, I don't know how you do it. Like, I would want to slap these people. Like, I could take it for a while, but I'm going to lose my shit at some point. Mm-hmm. And Sarah never, ever, ever.
What did she say? How did she do it?
She just said it was like, that was the job. I think it's also because she spent her entire life around politics.
Yeah.
With her dad running for president twice. So she has grown up in this environment from a very young age. And you look at Huckabee as a gubernatorial candidate in Arkansas, and then as presidential candidate twice. He was always very much the happy warrior. Even when he was running as kind of like the culture warrior, like where Rick Santorum was always very angry, like Huckabee was always very happy. You know, it was hard, even if you disagreed with him, it was hard to dislike him because he was just such an affable guy. And so
infectious.
Yeah. And so I think that Sarah's version of that is this like real calm that even if you, and it's funny, like people have said to me, like, I hate Trump, but I have to admit, I respect Sarah. Like, she's really good at her job. And I'm like, yeah, she is, you know, because she went out there, like, look at, you know, Jean Pierre. Corinne Jean Pierre. Corinne Jean Pierre. Yeah, I always think KGB. Corinne Jean Pierre. And look at her again when she's out there. It reminds me a little bit of Sean Spicer. It's very helter skelter. It feels like
it's very combative.
She looks lost at times. That never happened with Sarah. And by the way, Kylie McInerney, who follows her, did an amazing job, but she was very different. She would come out and she would have that briefing book with tab after tab after tab after, and she would come with like
she was good. She was good, but I never remember Sarah having any kind of a crib sheet or notes or anything, you know?
And part of it was Sarah was willing to say if she didn't know. Sarah was willing to say,
good point,
which Sean didn't do. Like, he would say something, he'd get out over his skis a little bit. And Trump never likes it when you get out over your skis. Like, he'll be the first one to like throw you under the bus at that point.
Better to say I don't know, but I'll find out.
Yes. And Sarah was so good at doing that, you know? And it was like, no matter how many times they tried to get a rise out of her, they just couldn't. It was just not her personality.
Dude, they even accused her of not baking the pies that she brought to the White House.
So I was doing press for Women for America First, and it was during the Kavanaugh confirmations, and I had asked if Sarah could come and be our speaker at the event. It was at the Trump Hotel in DC, and Sarah was like, yeah. And then we got there, and she was supposed to speak on the day of the final vote on Kavanaugh. And I was like, she's not gonna be able to do this. Like, she's got to be there. And she's like, no, I'm coming. I'll be there. And it was actually Lisa who had it made for her. We gave her an award, but instead of it being like a plaque or something, it was a rolling,
right?
Which was, and again, Sarah loved that. You know what I mean? It was just, and that was, again, it shows just her like personality and her general demeanor. And Sarah is 100% loyal. She's 100% America first. She knows how Trump works. She's never going to be trying to undermine the president. She's unbelievably smart. Like, she could get on the stage with anybody and debate them. If she's standing on the stage with Kamala Harris, she's going to embarrass the hell out of Kamala Harris. Like, and do it in a complete and total, like, I mean, it would remind me kind of the Cheney Edwards debate in 2004, where Cheney dismantled John Edwards, but he did it in this like super low key, calm, just like
John Edwards had no idea what was happening.
None. This is a guy who had made millions of dollars in a courtroom and in front of people, and he was really, really good at it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's sitting at a table with Dick Cheney, and Cheney is just eating his lunch. And I think that Sarah could bring some of that same energy, that kind of like cool, calculated, I'm never going to crack, and I'm going to destroy you, but you're not even going to know what's happening until it's over.
Exactly.
And again, I feel like Sarah would help people remember the good stuff about the Trump presidency. You know, like this, hey, I remember that. This is when gas prices were low and the economy was booming and we were respected in the world, as opposed to maybe Carrie Lake reminds them a little bit. And again, I love her. So it's not a criticism of her, but does it remind them of the 2020 grievance Trump, you know, which is like, I want the guy who runs on, I've already done this once. I know how to build an economy. I know how to make it boom. I know how to do all point out all the things he would have done differently as president versus Biden. Like I always said, like with the supply chain thing, Trump would have brought in everybody to the White House and would
Exactly.
have said, how are we fixing this tomorrow?
Mhm.
And everybody would have been, every CEO would have been there, and he would have broken people right there instead of running around saying there's nothing I can do about it. This is going to have that. Like, no, Trump would have same thing with like the baby shortage, like baby formula shortage. He'd have the CEOs of all those companies in the Oval Office and said, it's getting fixed tomorrow. You tell me how you're fixing it. Like like that's the kind of energy that we're missing in the Oval Office today with Biden, who like can't find, he couldn't find his way out of a paper bag with directions.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's so, yeah, it would be, and in general, I hope that's the Trump we get. I hope it's the Trump who runs on what he did as president, all of the successes, which are unquestionable. And then all the things he would have done differently as president versus Biden.
Hey, let's move over to the NHL because you're a huge hockey fan. Let's cover some fun pop culture stuff as we go out. So the NHL is going full woke. So they tweeted out that trans women are women, trans men are men, non-binary identity is real. Given who the average NHL fan is, which is largely warm-blooded heterosexual men who drink beer, what is this all about, and why are they pushing this in everyone's face, and what is the end result other than dividing and in some cases turning off a large part of their fan base?
So I'm gonna disagree a little with you here. I don't think that the NHL has gone full woke. I think that tweet was probably a tad much. And look, I'm somebody who I play hockey. I'm going tonight. I have my rec league game tonight. I play twice a week. I know hockey culture. I also understand that NHL has a legitimate interest in attempting to expand the game because hockey, like it or not, we are a niche game. We are a game that is, if you are a Canadian, you love hockey. If you live in a handful of states in the US where it actually gets cold enough to have ice, you may like hockey, but we're largely relegated to the sidelines. And so it has created a very insular hockey community. And I don't have any problem with that because it includes me. So I love it.
Right.
But I also understand that for hockey to succeed, we have to attract new people to the game. And I've been involved in a couple of different projects. One was blind hockey, which I had a good friend of mine who I played rec league hockey with for years, former Air Force guy who sustained injuries during his time in the Air Force and started losing his vision and ended up legally blind. And instead of giving up the game he loved, he figured out there was this thing called blind hockey, which is played with the giant puck that's got it's metal, and it's got ball bearings in it, makes a shit ton of noise, and decided, hey, I'm going to go out and I want to start a blind hockey league in DC. And he did. And I would go on my Saturdays and would volunteer to help kids who were legally blind, like lace up skates for the first time and get out on the ice and do all and it was amazing. And getting the opportunity to share that experience with people who thought there's no place for me here. I can't do this. And I was involved in a fundraiser in hockey against racism. And it was, look, again, we have very insular culture in hockey, and African-Americans.
It's a predominantly white sport.
Yeah, and they haven't felt welcome, and there've been a couple of really ugly, like, things that have happened over the years that get elevated and people hear about it, and so I played in a tournament, a charity tournament. We had this team that was inner city, like high school youth from Baltimore, freaking best kids in the entire world. They were amazing. I loved playing beside them, and it was so cool to get to see these kids like participate and learn to love this sport. And it was like when they came in, there was like essentially this grab bag of like gear, because none of these kids can afford.
It's gear. Hockey stuff's pricey,
very expensive.
Can be.
So this is my long way of saying that hockey does have a legitimate interest in trying to grow the sport. I don't think that, like, blabbing on about non-binary crap is the way to grow the sport. And I think, like anything, some of the legitimate efforts to attempt to get new people interested in the sport that I love are awesome, but then they get taken to their illogical ends.
Right.
Look, I'm a guy who, like, I wrote a op-ed that said the culture war is the only war worth winning. Like, I believe firmly that the culture war matters, and that for too long we have surrendered time and time and time and time and time again. Now, I say that, yet at the same time, I see that there are times when folks on our side of the aisle view everything that happens as an opportunity to score points in the culture war that sometimes are actually really unhelpful. The Ivan Provorov thing for the Philadelphia Flyers, when he didn't want to wear the pride jersey in the warm-up skate.
Right.
I don't care. He just shouldn't have to wear it. By the way, I thought the Flyers handled it perfectly fine. He didn't get fined. Like, they put out tweets saying, look, they held this night, so of course they should put out tweets saying, like, hey, like, we still respect the entire LGBT community, blah, 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 whatever. Tortorella, his coach, amazing. Torts was like, I don't see any problem. I thought he, like, so there was no reason for the histrionics that I saw from some on the right about essentially, like, things are melting down and holding up Provorov as some, like, hero. I don't have any problem with him not wearing it, and he shouldn't have to. And frankly, that should have been the end of the conversation. Provorov is not a hero.
It seemed to be the end of the conversation for him. I mean, he basically came out and just said, I respect everybody's choices. My choice is to stay true to myself and my religion, which is Russian Orthodox. And then his jersey sold out. And I was just kind of like, what is this all about? This is a non-story because it's like the coach came out and the goalie came out and just said, look, it's not a big deal. The guy just doesn't want to wear the jersey, and we don't care.
And people were like, oh, like the folks in hockey are going over the top on this, and I'm like, you want to know what? Like, there's a lot of folks who I respect in the conservative movement. But as I told Fox News, like, most of these people don't know the difference between a hockey puck and a hand grenade. Yeah. So when it comes to things that are happening in hockey, like, frankly, I think they should all shut the hell up. Like, I really don't. Like, if you decide that you want to dive bomb into this situation because you think this is like an opportunity to get like a viral tweet or whatever, like, I think that kind of sucks.
Everybody's looking to dunk on somebody these days.
Right? And like, this was not Breitbart's way. Like, I always think back to Andrew and what Andrew was about winning over people, like winning over culture,
not bifurcating.
Right. Not this attempt to try to blow the culture up. It was actually like, it's why we had like the Go Proud Big 80s party and, like, you know what I mean? Like, Andrew, that's why he had all of those big sites, it was all about, trying to make conservatives understand that politics is downstream from culture and we need to be involved in culture. We don't need to be the grumpy old man standing on our front lawn screaming about. We need to be engaged in it. We like it's fine to have a conversation about, like, hey, this seems like one of those times where we're going a little far. Like, Provorov should totally not have to wear, But
it's not. It's not this hill to die on. Andrew, I think, understood how to pick your battles.
Yeah. And not to have everything be your battle,
everything through a political lens. Not, it doesn't have to be. And I think that you're right. I think that a lot of the times we end up sounding sort of like some new moral majority.
Yes,
that's not a good look.
It's not appealing at all. It grosses me out. It's me like too. I'm like,
me too.
It is the part of the conservative movement that I've never had any interest in. Like, I don't want to be part. You
and I grew up with the PMRC.
Yes.
Tipper Gore and everybody slapping labels on NWA to Soundgarden to Ozzy Osbourne to Judas Priest. And sometimes I think that conservatives these days sound like the people, the dorks in the 80s that thought that Judas Priest was putting subliminal messages on their albums, which was leading teens to commit suicide. Well, and they went to trial over this, and they played the records backwards. I mean, It was nuts. And all it did was make those people look like a bunch of stodgy, old, judgmental jerks.
Well,
And that's not how you build a big tent.
No, and it's when you look at one of the things that cancel culture and the woke left have given us an opening is that they look like the no fun police now.
Absolutely.
And it's like, this is our opportunity to show, guess what? They're now the Tipper Gores. Like, they're now the new moral majority people. We are the people who want you to enjoy your life and have fun and are tired of listening to like harping from everybody all the time about everything, you know, like have fun, watch what you want to watch on TV, go where you want to go, listen to whatever music you want to listen to, stop letting everybody else tell you who's canceled and who's not. And when these moments happen, it all of a sudden, I'm like, man, like now this sounds like we're the like no fun police. And by the way, I'd like to point out that some of the people who were saying like what a hero Provorov was were the same people who were saying that NFL owners should be able to force players to stand during the
national anthem. Yep.
You can't have it both ways. You can't say the Flyers have no business telling somebody to wear a jersey, which I agree they don't. But at the same time, say like actually, but NFL owners should be able to force people like. Can we just stop? Can we just admit that the people who are kneeling are embarrassing themselves? We don't need to tell NFL owners that you should force people to stay. They're humiliating themselves.
Yeah,
and we should tell people why they're embarrassing themselves. You know, and at the same time, Provorov doesn't have to wear. Nobody has to wear the stupid. You don't have to wear any warm-up jersey if you don't want to. Who cares? But like that's where we should leave it at. It's like we don't have to go from like here. So then, like there were times during this debate over the like, not only did I get annoyed as somebody who actually plays hockey, and I'm like, Jesus, some of you, I can't listen to your opinions on hockey. But then also I'm like, we made like Trump in particular made so many inroads into the gay community, into African American community, Hispanic community, like all these communities, and like, can the like crappy old white guys not ruin this again?
Yeah, I want to retain those inroads that he made.
Yes, we're all against being woke. None of us wants anybody to have to wear but can we stop at that? Can we say like that is the common denominator that all of us in this big tent can agree to, is that guess what? Nobody should have to wear the stupid jersey. If you don't want to wear the jersey, don't wear the jersey. You know, like but again, we have some who, because they want to drive clicks or retweets or whatever, like they're willing to say anything to have a battle over this that frankly wasn't even a battle. Like it'd be one thing if the Flyers had fined Provorov, if Tortorella had benched Provorov.
That's different.
And that would have been, I would have been out saying this is insane. And this is an example of things going way too far. But none of that, it actually should have been a moment for people to say like, hey, this is kind of how it's supposed to work. You know, like,
they're pro-choice over there at the Philadelphia Flyers.
Somebody did something. A bunch of people didn't like it. They're free to say they don't like it. Some people thought it was great. At the end of the day, his coach didn't do anything and the team didn't do anything. It worked. Like, can we have more of this?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the way things used to work within culture. It's sort of live and let live, I think, sort of attitude. Again, I just feel like I'm being reminded of the Republican Party from like the 80s and this moral majority, and I'm like, I don't want to go back there. I don't want to go back there.
I'm like, look, I'm somebody who I love, A Song of Ice and Fire and House of the Dragon, I loved comic books when I was growing up, and I'm not looking for the Kirk Cameron world. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and by the way, neither was Breitbart. Breitbart wasn't looking to create ghettos where we all lived in. He wanted us to actually like change the whole culture, to be a part of that culture. And I think that the moral majority types, what they really want to do is create ghettos that we're forced to stay in, where it's like, and it'll be the worst no fun places to live in the entire world,
Yeah, that's the other thing, is that it's just kind of, it's like the fun police, and that's the last people that we ever want to be.
Again, I'm a big Star Wars fan, and some of the Star Wars stuff has been good. Some of it's been crap.
Yeah.
But like then like complaints about stuff like in Kenobi, there were people complaining that like one of the main bad guys in it was some black woman. Like, oh, it's so woke. And I'm like, actually, this is cool as shit. Like, I love the idea that the black woman is like the bad guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like that,
Because it's usually
have
a
place
white
where,
guy. It's usually a white guy, right?
yes, yes. I'm like, this is actually cool. Like
It's called
this,
progress.
yes. I'm like, why are we complaining? Like, my only complaints were her acting was a little
Well,
bad.
you could also say Giancarlo Esposito and The Mandalorian being the main bad guy also is a huge step forward, because Hollywood has a real problem with portraying anyone of color as a villain.
Absolute right now, like
Yeah,
they want as many people of color as possible to be in movies, but they don't want any of them to be the bad guys.
that's right.
Like,
Absolutely.
and it's like, I don't know if you watched Andor, but in like Andor, all the bad guys are pasty white. It's like
Yeah,
it's like I'm like, okay, like even though like white women are now bad guys, like used to be just a white man now, but so
yeah.
again, like let's have, again, I want to win culture wars, but to do that we have to actually like build this majority of people, and let's keep those inroads that Trump built. So let's not burn it down every single time something comes up.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. The NHL recently posted some discriminatory requirements for a job fair that they were holding down in Florida next month in February. And the requirements for the Pathway to Hockey Summit stated that participants must be 18 years of age or older, based in the U.S., and identify as female, Black, Asian, Pacific Islander, Hispanic, Latino, Indigenous, LGBTQIA plus, and/or a person with a disability. Veterans are also welcome and encouraged to attend. The only thing missing there is white people. So this caught the attention of Governor Ron DeSantis, who issued the following statement. He just said, discrimination of any sort is not welcome in the state of Florida. We do not abide by the woke notion that discrimination should be overlooked if applied in a politically popular manner or against a politically unpopular demographic. We are fighting all discrimination in our schools and our workplaces, and we will fight it in publicly accessible places of meeting or activity. And NHL was forced to backtrack and update this original post. I think they even turned off the comments because it was getting really gnarly. But
This is an example.
Why use this kind of language?
Because all of these like equity and HR departments are filled with the worst kind of human beings on the planet. Like, it's often.
But it's like, I mean, that's got to be who's crafting these messages.
And by the way,
they're so tone deaf.
It's like terrible progressive whites. Like they're the worst. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
White
by the way,
guilt,
I'd be
white
willing.
guilt.
Yes, I'd be willing to let like the craziest progressive like people of color run things before I let like white liberals run things, because they're actually the worst at this. They're, it's like recently Lizzo was talking about like cancel culture, and I'm like all these people like get it, and they all understand that like it's these like liberal whites who are the ones who are actually the worst about this, and like they're the ones who are crafting these crazy word salad bullshit statements that frankly don't, there's no, like I was talking about, there's legitimate reasons to try to grow the game. That's not about growing the game.
No, it's bifurcating.
Yes, dividing people out. Like, no reason for that. And I've said 1,000 times, like, look, people who live in disadvantaged urban areas have a lot more in common with people who live in disadvantaged rural areas. Like, poor white people who live out where I live have a lot more in common with urban blacks in places like DC and New York City than they think they do. And at the end of the day, that largest like block is an economic one. And that if we really want, again, like I know incredibly privileged like Asian kids, Black kids whose parents pay for them to play hockey. They get to go on travel teams, all this stuff that like the average working class kid isn't going to get to experience. So if we really want to try to figure out how do we give people like new opportunities, like we realize that some of those layers, like barriers to entry, are economic ones that transcend race altogether, and that we shouldn't want to make. I don't want I don't want some poor working class kid out in West Virginia to think that hockey doesn't have a place for him. You know what I mean? Like in the same way that I don't want the inner city black kid from Baltimore to think that there's not a place for him in hockey. I want all of them to feel like there's a place for hockey. And we do that by making it clear we want all of them involved, not by trying to cut one person out at the expense of others.
Right. Well, sadly, we're out of time. Chris, go ahead and give everyone your social media coordinates as to where they can find you and your work.
Yep. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris R. Barron. You can also check out my writings in Human Events, where I should be contributing more regularly than I do. So if you're one of my overlords at Human Events, don't listen to this.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. We'll have you back.
Sounds good, man.